out of all the things that Donald Trump has done, out of all the lines that he has crossed, this just might be the ultimate one. This just might be the one that's going to cause us to finally stand up in a revolution against the billionaire and the oligarch class and corporate America, who's stealing and robbing from us blind and just taking advantage of us over and over again. In the background here, we have Don Voltaggio, the founder and chairman of Arizona Beverage Company, the famous 99-cent Arizona can that we are all very familiar with. And because of Donald Trump's tariffs on aluminum, now the reason this is even more notable is because the 99-cent price has not faltered for decades and decades. For over 30 years, it has been a 99-cent can. And Don Voltaggio's overall stance on why he hasn't raised the prices, because what's the point? We don't need to. I'm a billionaire. Our company's not in debt. There's no reason for us to do this. We don't have to be greedy. Why should we raise prices for people who are struggling to make ends meet just so that we can have a little bit more of what we don't need? You got to respect it, right? So let's go ahead and check this out. The original is on Fortune. It's also in the New York Times and a bunch of other spots, but we're going to read this here from Newsweek. All right, so let's check this out. Arizona has steadfastly stuck by its 99-cent pricing despite economic pressures and inflation, which would otherwise push it to double that level. Voltaggio told NBC News last year that the company would fight as hard as we can to ensure cash-strapped consumers were able to buy the products at the long-held price. The potential change indicates the pressure facing those in the beverage sector and other metals-reliant industries, as a result of the recent tariff hike. Since the early 1990s, the Arizona Beverage Company has held the price of its big canned drinks at 99 cents, but Don Voltaggio told the New York Times, quote, "At some point, the consumer is going to have to pay the price. I hate even the thought of it," Voltaggio added. "It would be a hell of a shame after 30 plus years." In June, Trump announced that he would be doubling tariffs on imported steel and aluminum to 50% from the 25% rate announced in February. Quote, what is this? Trump said, "I have determined that increasing the previously imposed tariffs will provide greater support to these industries and reduce or eliminate the national security threat posed by imports of steel or aluminum articles and their derivative articles." He didn't write that because there's no caps and everything's spelled right, so he didn't write it. The U.S. imports around half of the aluminum used domestically, and representatives of the U.S. aluminum sector have warned that this move could endanger them as well as other aluminum and steel-reliant industries. Quote, "Reestablishing a more level playing field for domestic product producers is critical, but a Section 232 tariff of 50% threatens to undermine the very industry the administration aims to support," said Charles Johnson, president and CEO of the Aluminum Association. And again, the thing about the whole thing about tariffs supposing to bring jobs back to America, as we've discussed many times, there's no real. Well, first and foremost, the world economy doesn't work that way. We live in a world trade economy. It's just what it is. And so to really offset that in any type of significant way, the working class here in America would have to be invested in greatly. Domestic manufacturing would have to be invested in by the hundreds of billions of dollars, which corporate America specifically is not interested in doing because it's cheaper to pay people overseas to do your work. That's why they employ undocumented migrants to do work, because you don't have to pay them as much. Same concept. China took advantage of that. Now they're the world's manufacturer. There's manufacturing in other countries, obviously, as well. But corporate interests have driven that forward, and the Republican Party and corporate America have no interest in investing in that whatsoever in any way. So all that's happening is prices are spiking for consumers, as we all knew that it would. But, Donald Trump, "Oh, I don't believe that. In my opinion, it's not going to work that way," because he's an idiot. Quote, "The Aluminum Association, which represents the full industry supply chain and 70% of domestic production, urges the administration to reconsider today's decision, given the negative impact it will have on manufacturers." There we go again in the background. Arizona, which imports 20% of its aluminum from Canada, has not yet formally announced plans to raise its prices. However, it is one of many that have said the metals tariffs could force its hand in the future, a step some have already taken. Again, like you said, Don Voltaggio is doing his best to keep the prices low, and he has for over 30 years. So there's no reason to believe that he's just going to hike these prices for the purposes of greed or just because he can. Because if he was going to do that, I think he would have done that quite some time ago. New York Democratic Representative Richie Torres said on Twitter, he says, quote, "Since 1997, Arizona iced tea has proudly kept its iconic 99-cent price tag for the first time in nearly 3 decades. Trump's tariffs threatened to double that price to $1.99. Trump promised to lower prices. Instead, he's driving them up. And again, like I said, man, it's going to the 99-cent can. The price has maintained its stability for so long. I mean, is there any sin more egregious than this? Yeah, so there we go. It's pretty straightforward. As Donald Trump fails to deliver on all of his campaign promises, other than the terrible ones, this motherfucker then went so far to possibly raise the price of the iconic and stable 99-cent Arizona Big Can.
Hey now, thank you so much for tuning in here at Politics and Paper. If you like what I do and you support my work, go ahead and subscribe. I greatly appreciate it and it really helps to support what we do here.